Greetings everyone, this is Jeff Wilkerson, Professor of Physics at Luther College, bringing you the next in our series of what to look for in the night sky. We're talking about the week of August 29th, 2022 this time around. So we're looking at the last half of the last week of August and the first half of the first week of September. So we're going to take a look at the planets and some of the areas surrounding the planets. We did a brief flyby of the planets a couple of weeks ago. And I thought at the time it'd be nice to talk a little bit more about some of these environs that the planets are in right now. So we're going to do that here. And then I don't think we're going to get it all done. I tell you what, I know what you're thinking. You're looking at the board here, and the board's a disaster. It's just a mess, a bunch of dots, a bunch of incoherent scribbling. And you're thinking, he spent an hour and a half figuring out how to put the most incoherent scribbling on the board he possibly could before starting to talk to us about what to look for in the night sky. And I'd like to deny it because it's not true, but the evidence is so overwhelming against me that I don't think it would matter how much I denied it. So here we are. We're talking about Saturn, Jupiter, and Mars. These are the planets that are beautiful in the night sky right now. So let's start with Saturn. And Saturn doesn't move a whole heck of a lot against the background stars. It doesn't move very quickly, let me say that. That's the best way to say it. And it's been in this general region of Capricornus for a while, so we've had a chance to talk about Capricornus, and we're going to do it again. And the stars, so it gets dark right now. When Saturn is well up in the sky when it gets dark, for me, and I think for everyone, as long as you're not too far south or north. But so as it gets dark, I look to the southeast. So I'm looking straight south, and there's the eastern horizon over here, and maybe halfway, not quite halfway over to the eastern horizon is going to be Saturn. It's going to be a fairly bright dot. So it'll be one of the brightest dots you'll see burning into the sky as you look southeast as it gets dark. So as darkness starts to fall, you'll see this. Not too long ago, I had the chance to meet people and give a little talk and be present at Dark Sky Festival at the Forestville Mystery Cave State Park in Minnesota. It was a fantastic time. I recommend it highly next year when it comes around, and I'll send a shout out at that time too if I remember to do that. But it was clear skies. You know, that's not always do you have clear skies when you plan a festival like this. In fact, I don't know how you make it happen, but it was clear skies, and we were walking out after I gave a little presentation to go look at the telescopes a little bit that were set up there for people to observe the sky. And what you could see, my wife asked me, said, what is that bright object? And I fumbled over it a little bit, and then I realized later it's Saturn is what that is that's burning in, because we didn't have a lot of background quite yet to see what was going on there, and I wasn't expecting a bright star in that region. So Saturn was the brightest star appearing right there. So you'll get a chance to see that. Now, what I could see then under those dark skies, and hopefully you can see, are these two dots of light right next to Saturn. So Saturn is here. This whole region is encompassed in just a few degrees. You hold your finger out at arm's length like that, and that's about a degree. And so we're talking about a couple of finger widths would cover this entire region of the sky. So these are very tightly packed dots of light. Saturn is the brightest. Nashira, the bringer of good fortune, is close here, within a degree and a half or so of Saturn, and then within a couple of degrees of Nashira is Deneb Algedi that we've talked about a lot, the tail of the goat here in Capricornus. So this is Capricornus. Capricornus looks a little bit like that. So there's Deneb Algedi and Nashira, and then you move out to these stars up this direction like that, sort of like a cornucopia shape. And that's what we've got here in this region. And Saturn is this bright object that is next to these two stars, sort of a triangle shape with these two stars right there. It's not sort of a triangle shape, as long as it's not a line. Any three bright objects in the sky are going to make a triangle, but we won't get into that right now. As you move out this direction, these are all faint stars and hard to see. I took a picture of this with my phone just last night as I'm recording this. And I'll put this on the web for you to be able to go look this up. So I have this region of sky with Capricornus and Saturn sitting in there. I can't do it right now. We're changing systems where our sort of web-based, our web page maintenance system. And so I can't have it up there as we speak. But within a few days of your seeing this, you should be able to find this picture out there. Look up an asterisms on our website, and look up on the Luther College website, and look up Capricornus when it gets there. And so within a few days of seeing this, within 3 or 4 days of this video going live, I think that'll be there. So in any event, this is what we're looking at, is this pattern. But these are all faint stars, especially down in here. We're talking about 3rd and 4th magnitude stars, well down to the south, for those of you who live as far north as I do, here in the northern hemisphere, the mid-northern latitudes. So these are very, very hard stars to see, but make out as many as you can. Start with Saturn, and then find the 2 stars below, to south and to the east of Saturn, as Nashira and Deneb Algedi, and then work from there and see if you can walk out. For me, it's easier to walk out these stars along the top than it is these stars along the bottom. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. There are other fainter stars in there, but I try to find 4 stars out the top of this sort of cornucopia, and 2 stars out the bottom of it. So that's what we're talking about now. While you're in this region, why don't you go look up, and I'm sure I've recommended this before, M72, a globular star cluster, and M73. So if you can find these stars along the top, then you can triangulate your way up among between the middle stars out here to look for this open star cluster and this globular star cluster. Use your binoculars as you need to. Find these stars. Start with Saturn. Find all of the stars with a pair of binoculars. It would be great help here. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. So then there's another globular cluster as you take the first star out to the south, just down and back to the south and back to the east is M30, a globular cluster. That's a fairly bright globular cluster. You should be able to pick all of these things out, I think. You should be able to find these objects with a small telescope and maybe with binoculars, probably with binoculars, most of these things. And it's all great. It's all great. Now, once you've done this, once you've practiced this pattern, find Saturn, enjoy recognizing Saturn right there. I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story that's going to use up all of our time, so we won't get to much of any of this other stuff that makes the board so messy and unpleasant. So that means you've got it to look forward to in your future. Isn't that great to think about? So anyway, we'll do that again sometime, but a long time ago. So the story is that as we worked our way into the 19th century, we had discovered Uranus by accident. William Herschel discovered Uranus by accident, sort of just sweeping the skies and realized there was an object there that didn't belong, and this was Uranus. As we tracked Uranus's motion over decades, we kept having to tweak up its orbital parameters to get it to fit an orbit. And by the time we got to the beginning of the 19th century, it was becoming very, very hard to tweak up those orbital parameters enough to make this work. So as we start to work through the first decades of the 1900s, the 1800s, excuse me, we realized that there's probably something else out there pulling on Uranus. And so this is a fairly well-known story that Neptune is this other planet that's out there pulling and causing it to deviate from the expected orbit. And so people calculated where Neptune was. Famously, both John Couch Adams and Urbain Le Verrier did this calculation. Now, we would usually call Le Verrier the discoverer of Neptune, and it's the first planet that was discovered by calculation, not by observation. And so the great story of Adams going to talk to one astronomer in England and not really knowing anybody, and so sort of making a cold call and getting brushed off a little bit, wanting to say, hey, I've done these great calculations. We should go look for where this object is in the sky. We should see if this planet is there. Didn't go anywhere because he didn't really know, he wasn't a known entity there. Le Verrier knew people at the Bonn Observatory, and so he had friends, and so it's always easier to get that in if you have friends. And so he said, hey, I've been doing this calculation. I think maybe this planet may be here. And so they went and looked, and there it was. So Neptune was discovered just about 4 degrees or so northeast of Deneb Algedi in here. So as you're looking at Saturn and you're looking at Nashira and Deneb Algedi, recognize that right here in that region of the sky is where Neptune was discovered, the first planet discovered by calculation. And that was where it was first seen in the sky. it was right there. So this is an interesting historical region of the sky. It's beautiful to look at these stars. It's beautiful to look at these open star clusters and globular star clusters. But at the same time, it's great to think about how historically important this region of the sky is, as we discovered Neptune right there. So let's go on. As it gets dark, Saturn is bright in the southeast. Jupiter is rising for me right now as it gets dark, but it's so close to the horizon it's really hard to see. By the time you see this, a week later, it'll be getting higher in the sky. But if I wait for an hour after dark, right now, I can see Jupiter pretty well coming up in the east, and it's much brighter than Saturn. So it's the biggest, brightest thing coming up over there in the east is Jupiter. Jupiter sits about 8 degrees below Omega Pisces. So these are stars in Pisces. And this is what is often called the circlet of Pisces right here that sits below the Great Square of Pegasus. The Great Square of Pegasus is up this way. So these are faint stars too. This is a faint constellation as well, Pisces and Capricornus both. And so these are, again, 3rd and 4th magnitude stars at best for some of these. And so go out and try to find these stars. Just for this week, let's do nothing else and say, use Jupiter to move 8 degrees, about a fist width up to the north and the west to find Omega in Pisces, and then you've got Iota, Theta, Gamma, and Lambda around this direction that form this circlet of stars right here. So you want to see if you can find those stars. Let's enjoy the view of Jupiter coming up after Saturn and see if you can find the circlet of Pisces. And then an hour or two later, so for me it's going to rise a little after 11 o'clock right now, but again, I'm going to want to wait until almost midnight for it to get high enough in the sky for it to really pop in the east, is going to be Mars. And so Mars is the V of the Hyades, the nice open star cluster, the Hyades in Taurus, the bull. There's the red star Aldebaran, so that's really what you want to enjoy right now, is how close red Mars is to red Aldebaran, and then the Pleiades is up here. We'll talk about Zeta and Tauri and M1, the Crab Nebula, some other time. So we'll come back to this region over here. For right now, just enjoy this coming up right here. Start with Saturn, wait a little bit, and you've got Jupiter, and wait just a little bit more, and you've got Mars. And you can start to find some of the stars around them, whether that's the circlet of Pisces, whether that's the cornucopia of Capricorn, thinking about Neptune, or whether that's the V of the Hyades, an open star cluster, and the Pleiades, an open star cluster. These are both, this is a big V of stars. You see this as a big V of stars. So you, without any optical aid, you say, that whole group, that's a nice grouping of stars, and that group of stars is the Hyades star cluster. And the Pleiades is the nice little kind of fuzzy patch, but you can see individual stars in it that looks like a little tiny dipper of stars that sits up above Mars. So this is a chance to go and learn those if you don't know those things right now. And if you do know those things, just enjoy seeing them again. That's what we got for you this week. Hope you have clear skies, everybody. Hope you have a chance to get out and observe. And as always, thanks for watching.